Good. So I'm going to talk to you today about developing a new food product and how a product goes from being a concept or an idea in someone's mind to actually being something that you can eat. So as a background here, I just showed some pictures of some recognizable food brands. So it's easy to break down food product development into 5 major sections. I know it sounds a little dorky because there are 5 Ds to almost everything, but the 5 Ds of food product development are decide, discover, define, develop, and deploy. So how do we settle on one idea? How do we decide what we're going to make? So this can either be done in specific small teams within a company, or they can have just research and development divisions. So I'm going to use as an example the competition that I participated in. So we could be considered an independent team. And the first thing that you kind of want to start off doing is looking at what's in the market currently. So this is an example using cookies. I know it's kind of strange, but basically you kind of create a table for yourself and you look at what already exists. So as an example, there are cookies that are sweet and sandwich. That's like an Oreo would be an example of that. So you try to look for places in the market where something doesn't already exist, and we call that a market gap. So after you choose kind of an area you want to focus on, which could be anything from a beverage to a snack food to a convenience food, you would create something like this in order to analyze what might be missing. So it's hard to kind of decide what people would like just based on a short description. But because when you go into a grocery store, all you kind of see is just like the first name and a basic description of the product, it's actually kind of an accurate way to decide if someone would buy something. So you can present questionnaires with just a short description of a product to focus groups or potential consumers. And they can decide just based on that whether they think they would buy a product like that. And then we can use that information in order to analyze it statistically, and in order to decide what product ideas are viable and we should pursue. So within the class, we kind of settled on 3 basic ideas based on such a questionnaire. The first is was a cheese-filled cracker. The second was a kimchi-flavored vegetable chip. And the last one was a shelf-stable sorbet. So at this stage in the game, there's kind of not any cooking or experimenting. You're literally just throwing out ideas and seeing how people react to them. If consumers don't think that they need a new product, they're not going to buy it. So you have to kind of identify a need that a consumer might have, whether they know it or not, and explain how your product is going to satisfy that need. So you can do this by letting people try the product side by side with a competitor, that kind of thing, to see if they see that your product is better, more beneficial, etc. So these are done in order to discover if consumers see the product as unique and beneficial. And you can also use focus groups to answer these questions. It seems like kind of a weird step to discover your product, but 72% of the 200,000 new food products that are released every year fail. So it's a really big deal in order to analyze, is my product actually going to be beneficial to someone? So as an example, this is sensory evaluation. I just wanted to show you kind of what a lab was. Can everyone see? Does it actually turn the lights off?
I don't drop the lights.
Thank you.
Did you say drop the lights?
Yeah. Shut the lights off, drop them out of the circuit.
Thank you. This is just kind of what it looks like inside of a sensory evaluation lab. So if you were testing a new food product, you'd be like one of these people sitting in your little isolated cubby, and you'd get a tray with different samples on it, and you would express how you feel about it on the computer. And the reason it's a different color light is sometimes we add light in order for you to not be as influenced by the color of a product. Okay. And this is kind of an example of the kind of tray you would get. you would analyze it based on number, and they would ask you to either describe the differences, say which one you prefer, that kind of thing. There's a lot of really boring statistical analysis that goes into. I'm not gonna go into some details, so don't worry. This is like the kind of horrible thing. You guys get to come and taste the product and say which one you like better, and then that information has to be translated into something that they can use to determine whether more people would accept a certain product, what that's based on. It's a lot of statistical analysis. So I'm going to show you some examples of failed food products that hopefully you'll recognize some of them. Anybody remember Pepsi Blue Hawaii?
Ooh,
Yeah.
That was a thing.
what the heck?
It was gross.
I never knew that.
That was a thing. All right, ready? There's some more. What about these guys?
3D Dorito!
Mixed spaghetti.
Mixed spaghetti?
That was a thing. It actually still exists in a couple of other countries, but not in the United States anymore.
What's the jello?
It's a salad jello because people used to like to make those like
Oh, I see
jellied
that.
salads, right?
That's
So they
disgusting.
tried to make a savory version that you could suspend your salad in.
That's
I've
seen
disgusting.
that.
That is disgusting.
But
Failed
like
for a
you
reason.
Why
And then-
did 3D? Let's go.
Yeah, and then the Hershey Swoops, they were kind of like stackable like Pringles, sort of. but they
Yeah, I
were, like,
remember
food
those.
shot in there. Okay, I think everyone's gonna remember the next one. Ready? Boom.
Oh, yes!
That was so
Right?
gross.
What was the point of that?
Ugh.
Ketchup.
That was
The-
nasty.
That was
the-
gross.
The
I
biggest
never had
problem here is they were trying to make something extra, but it was unnecessary. Nobody needs purple ketchup. It made people think it was going to be grape flavored or lime flavored, when really it was just ketchup. So these are some products that failed.
I actually thought those tasted so different from regular ketchup.
Yeah, same
Yeah,
here.
they technically were not supposed to taste any different. But again, why would you change the color of ketchup? Because ketchup is red because tomatoes are red, and that's a good thing to preserve.
1 minute to go.
Oh, geez. All right. This is the product that we created. We decided to settle on a flavor, and the flavor was a hibiscus and lemon with crystallized ginger. So this is when you kind of define your product, settle on a flavor, and define what it is that's going to be in there. Do you want it to be low fat, high fiber, that kind of thing. So the next stage is the development stage, and that's where basically everything important happens. You create your prototypes, you optimize your recipes. This is a picture of the test kitchen at my school, and creating different flavors of sorbet. And then there's a lot of making the product a ton of different times, changing specific factors in order to get what we call like the optimal recipe that you're then going to present. This is also the stage in which you determine packaging, like what it's going to be made out of, the design of packaging, what it's going to look like, how people are going to recognize your brand. And then defining processing. I'm not going to go through all this, but this is just an example of what we call a process flow diagram, where you describe step by step exactly what's going to happen to ingredients when this is made industrially, and the equipment that you're going to need. And then the last stage is to deploy the product. So that means literally it's going to enter the marketplace now. So you have to describe what the price is going to be, who's going to sell it, and what your marketing strategy is going to be. So this isn't really as much of what food scientists do, but we kind of had to do it during the competition in order to learn this whole kind of aspect. That's it. That's how we can get from an idea to an actual product that we buy. It's kind of a long process.